So, welcome to my first ever video on YouTube. So today's video, I'm going to kind of go into the basics of tarot. Tarot reading. If that's something that you've been searching for, you're interested in, and you don't know a lot about, this is definitely where you want to start. Later on down the road though, I will be creating more videos that go into each card way in depth. We'll talk about what this card can mean for your career, what this card could mean for your love life, or just your relationships in general. And I'm going to talk about the yes or no's behind these cards, the astrology behind these cards, symbolisms, and all sorts of stuff. We'll talk about numerology a little bit, but for today's purposes, I want to keep it really simple and light, and I think just this little bit of information I'm giving you in this video is going to automatically make you feel like a better tarot reader. What is tarot? So tarot is obviously a form of divination, and it helps you be able to process things, current and past events, in a different light. For me, that's kind of what I like to use it for. Again, what's really cool about spirituality and like this whole side of the world is that you can kind of take what works for you and leave what doesn't work for you. So for me, tarot is a lot more understandable to explain things for people, or to shed light on experiences for people, and a little bit of insight for the future. Some tarot readers will use it for like true insight or fortune telling, and I do believe that people out there can do that. For me though, like, I don't feel like the future is set in stone. I do believe that depending on your actions and split-second decisions, things can change, and so I like to use these more for like insight. Like, if you do handle this situation like this could be your outcome, or whatever. But like I said, it's up to you. It's kind of what you feel is right to you, and like what your skill set is, and kind of how you feel you to want to go about it. With tarot, it was introduced in Europe around the late 14th century, and while you will see many different artist decks, most cards are going to be about the same definition. You will see some people vary a little bit different, but tarot is very structured, and the structure is hard to step away from. So a tarot deck is always going to have 78 cards. Always. If it does not, it's not a tarot deck. At least in my opinion. Somebody else might tell you different. Before we kind of get into the suits of the minor arcana, I kind of want to talk about choosing the right deck. There are thousands of different tarot decks out there. I mean, thousands. All with different types of art and symbolism, and like anything you can think of, it's probably out there. And I think that's where people's first mistake is. They don't want to buy the traditional Rider-Waite deck, which this is the box. I bought this one from Amazon. I think it was like a little kit for like $14. Yeah, I love it. Or choosing a deck that doesn't necessarily go with a definition, it just has pictures and symbolism, that's going to be for a more advanced reader, somebody who already understands this very general basics of the tarot, and they have a deeper understanding of the tarot, and now they can take a tarot deck that's not a traditional tarot deck, go with what the typical Two of Cups means, and then also go off the artist symbolism and kind of get from that, like, what are the cards trying to say. If you are new though, you should definitely invest in Rider-Waite. So the reason why I believe this is because for years, and I'm not kidding you, years, I have been trying to learn tarot, and I was getting good readings, and I do feel like my intuition was there, but it's like I would pull a card and I'd not know what it means, and it's like no matter what, I would always have to go to my book. It never clicked with me until I invested in Rider-Waite. As soon as I invested in Rider-Waite, it's like it took me 2 days, and that's because I have experience. If you have no experience at all, it's going to take you longer than 2 days. But it took me 2 days to finally grasp, okay, so this is what this card means, blah, 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 blah. And now I can take another one of my tarot decks and use those and get really good readings because I have the basic knowledge, that good foundation, and the Rider-Waite is the way to go. And then once you feel like you can move past the Rider-Waite deck, what I would suggest is like making them into flashcards. or, you know, doing a little bullet journal with them and just kind of having that reference for you for the rest of your life. I think that's going to be something that's beneficial, especially if you're writing it down yourself. It implants in your brain a little better. So this is the Six of Pentacles. And so I'm going to kind of go like the definition of this and kind of explain the symbolism and like why this deck just is easier to learn. So this is about somebody who has learned the beauty of balance. They have come out of a harder time financially, and the reason I get financially is because of Pentacles. And they have learned that whatever the universe gives them, it must go back out, and there needs to be this beautiful cycle of balance. And so where I get this from is, you see this man here, he's dressed nicely, but he's not dressed as nice as some of the other people in the deck. So like your Nine of Pentacles, she's dressed beautifully. Your kings and your queens in the deck are dressed very ornately. He is dressed nicely, but he's not, he's very, like I would call, I guess, middle class of the deck. But here he's giving something, what I think looks like money, to people who are less fortunate than him. And he's holding this scale that is balanced. He also has the castle in the background, and the castle is always a really good sign when they pop up in your tarot, because it means that you are on the right way to whatever your spiritual path is. You are making the right decisions, and you are heading in a way that is beneficial for you. But he's not at the castle yet, so that's how I know that like he's still on his journey and he's still got lessons to learn. And he's learned the concept of giving back, of balance, and like the law of attraction. And so by that I mean is because he's well-to-do. He's made it past the Five of Pentacles, which is all about loss in the material world, and he's learned the importance of giving back and not holding on to your wealth too tightly, and not being so tied to it. It's not important, you know, to have all these ties. And so that's kind of what I get from this. Like I said, this is just a very basic understanding of this card. I'm going to go through them in other videos in much more detail, but I just kind of want to show you what I meant by the picture and the definition go hand in hand. And so if you're trying to learn off of something that has animals in it that don't, it doesn't give you that. And so that's kind of why I like the Rider-Waite. That's what I was told to do one day. It was a piece of advice that someone gave me, and I took it to heart. So the tarot deck is comprised of 78 cards, and there's two different parts of the deck. So you've got your major arcana and your minor arcana. The word arcana specifically means knowledge. And so when we're talking about major arcana, we're talking about this big spiritual knowledge, spiritual growth, spiritual lessons, things that may be coming back from like old karmic debt, things that your soul absolutely needs to grow and ascend. Whereas the minor arcana, they are still very important. The lessons are just as important as the major arcana, because these are the building blocks to those major lessons. But they are things that you can change the outcome on. So it's not set in stone. You can view it more as a warning. So if you don't get a very positive reading and you've got mostly minor arcanas, listen to what the reader is saying, what your book is telling you, like what your intuition is telling you, because you can flip that around. That is something that you can learn that lesson and keep on moving. Okay, so the major differences between the deck. So you've got your deck. So now I gotta kind of talk about what this deck looks like, because you're going to be getting cards and you'll be looking through them, and you're going to notice you have different suits, different symbols. Some of the numbers go higher than others, blah 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 blah. So I kind of want to talk to you like how to know what you're looking at. So the deck is comprised, like I said earlier, of two different parts of the deck. You've got your major and your minor arcana. And like I said earlier, the major arcana is your big knowledge or your spiritual lessons. This is something that you have to learn. And if you prolong it, you're just going to keep learning it. You're never going to leave that cycle. Whereas minor arcana, these are things that we experience in our lifetime, but we do have the power over. And all lessons are important. So actually, I kind of want to talk about that. So I've got a major arcana card. So this is the Tower. And I've got a minor arcana card here, and this is the Four of Cups. So I'm going to talk about this one first. I'm going to talk about the Tower. So the Tower, this is a major arcana. So this is your big knowledge, and it looks frightening, yes. But if you get this in your reading, this is something that you have to learn, or else it will be something that you will see happen in your life often. And this card's all about like not having that stable foundation and like things are crumbling beneath you. It feels like everything's falling apart. Kind of like a rock bottom card. The thing is like if you get this, don't be freaked out. This doesn't mean that your whole life is going to fall apart. This could be something very small in your life that makes you feel this way, or it could, it really just depends on your circumstances. But the lesson behind this is learning how to build those solid foundations so when something starts to crack, you can fix it. And you know how to handle it if something does crumble and it doesn't feel like everything is over. So this is a huge, huge lesson to learn. This is a hard lesson to learn, but everybody learns it. And so that's what I mean by you can't change this. If you don't learn how to handle it when things are falling apart and you don't feel like anything's going your way, you're going to always feel like you're being challenged. Here is the Four of Cups. So this card, just real briefly, is about somebody who is focused on the negative, the stagnant. He feels like he's not moving fast enough. He feels very still. He feels like nothing's really going his way, that, he's not where he wants to be, and he can't understand why. But if he would just turn around behind him, the universe is trying to offer him the answers. And so this is about like kind of putting your blinders on and only seeing the negative. Whereas if this pops up in your tarot reading, that's something that you can look at and be like, oh, okay, like I see how that's affecting my love life or my job or my career, whatever it is. And that you can learn this lesson of just being open to the universe. Things can happen for you. So that's where that difference is here. And again, you'll have to learn this one over and over again. And this one too, but this is something that you can change right off the bat. This is something your soul has to learn. And so that's the major difference between major and minor. Also, major arcana has 22 cards. It goes from 0 to 21. And then the minor arcana, they have, I want to say 56 cards, something like that. And there's 4 suits, ace through 10, plus the 4 court cards. So a court card is the end of every suit, and you've got 4 of them. You've got the page, you've got the knight, the queen, and the king. In other decks, you'll hear them be called something other than that, but for my video purposes, since I'm using the Rider-Waite to teach you guys, I'm going to always refer to that as the page, the knight, the king, and the queen. And then you've got 4 suits in your minor arcana. So you've got your wands, your cups, your swords, and your pentacles. And each one of those is kind of talks about a different portion of your life and kind of how you are handling things and how they really help. What's the words? It's just different parts of your life. And I'll kind of go into that when we talk about the wands, the cups, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so that's the minor arcana. So you got your major arcana, which goes through 0 through 21, and then you got your minor with your 4 suits. I will be talking about the major arcana in a whole nother video that requires a video of itself. It's a lot of information, and they are very deep cards. I'm not going to hit too hard on that. I'm going to talk about the suits in the minor arcana today, and then I'm going to kind of give you some tips on how to start learning those better. The wands, they're all about your actions in the world, your egoism, how it plays a part in there, and how that's important to your core being, your possible travel, things like that. So basically a lot of action and physical movement with the wands. So the time frames, and when you're talking about time frames in tarot decks, which will make sense when you start to kind of get into them and people are asking you questions, they're fast moving cards. So like when you get a card, you're only going to be sitting in this spot for a little bit. It's very quick moving. The element for the wands, so each deck or each suit has an element correlated to it. The wands is fire, and they're the masculine energy of the deck. And so what that means by like the masculine energy, it just kind of means that it reflects the drive and willpower like behind your actions. Kind of what the masculinity means in like spirituality. And so the zodiac is obviously fire. So someone's asking about a question about a person and they're getting lots of wands. It could be talking about someone who's a Leo, a Sagittarius, or an Aries. The common themes that you're going to be getting, so if you get a reading and it's got wands in it, some of the common themes with the wands are going to be physical action, moving forward in your life, being challenged, possibly moving from a home or job, travel, things like of that nature. And if you are getting mostly wands in a reading, probably what it's trying to tell you is somewhere in your life requires movement. You need physical movement to change an outcome. And so that's going to be your wands. And that's just a brief overview. So like if you know that wands represent fire, they are for the fire signs, and they are about physical movement and like the ego and everything like that, then you can automatically use this information to get a deeper reading. So now we have cups. So cups are all about spirituality, psychic development, creativity, and they are a little bit slower moving than the wands because it's like the flow of water. So, you know, if you have a steady flow of water, and the energy behind this is the feminine energy in the deck, and that's all about your subtle power and how it being purifying and receptive. And of course, they're going to be talking about the zodiac signs, the water signs, so Pisces, Scorpios, and Cancers. Some common themes that you'll see when it comes to your cups are going to be, it's going to be telling you that you need to act from your heart, open up spiritually, kind of start to work on your psychic development and connecting emotionally, and using your intuition to move through life. They're all about your emotions. And if you are getting lots of cups in a reading, so say you're doing a reading and most of the cards that pop up are cups, that means that you or whoever you're reading for is dealing with issues of the heart, love, creativity, or spirituality. Whether it's positive or negative, it depends on the cards surrounding it and the cards that you get, but that's kind of what it's about. The third suit is your swords. So your swords are all about your level of consciousness, your mental processes, your intellect, and how you let like the way you think affect you. And they are the fastest moving suit in the deck. So if you're asking about time and you get a lot of swords, it's going to be happening very quickly, or it's going to be over very quickly. It's very fast. The element behind swords is air. And so kind of like your thoughts are unseen, so is air. Think about it like this, like a calm breeze is like your calmness of your mind, whereas a hurricane is the chaos that can happen in your brain. And zodiac for these cards is obviously the air signs, so Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. So some common messages that you can get when you are looking at your swords is going to be about your thought processes, like I said. And those can be either constructive or deconstructive to you. It's talking about your ambition, your power, using your intellect, whether it's for harm or for good, judgment either on yourself or others, and pushing yourself forward or holding yourself back mentally. If you're getting lots of swords in a reading, it means that you are seeking solutions through mental processes or working through mental struggles. It might also be an indicator that however you're handling a situation, you should be logical about it. The last one, and that's your pentacles. And so these are going to suggest things about your material world, and how you work for it or allow the material world to affect you. It can talk about your indulgence in the material world, whether you need to step back from that or be more indulgent in the material world. It's going to talk about your finance and wealth or your career. These are the slowest moving ones, so time frame on these ones, this could be several months to a year when you get pentacles. And the element behind the pentacles is going to be earth, and the reason why is pentacles, material world, that's our foundation, and earth is the literal foundation that we are born to. The zodiac is obviously the earth sign, so Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. And then some common themes, things surrounding your material life, the indulgent or manifestation. So how are you manifesting it? Are you being positive about it? Is the reason why you're not reaching abundance because you're not positively manifesting? Or are you overindulging in things and maybe need to step back? And so that's kind of where you're going to get with this. If you're getting mostly pentacles, it just means that you're having material conflicts or solutions, usually money related. Depending on the cards surrounding it, you could get a little bit of a different reading, but you know, for the most part, like I said, material world. My last thing I will leave with you today is a big tip that helped me, and that is to journal. journal daily on your tarot readings. So I would invest in a notebook that you haven't written in yet and do a daily reading for yourself, even if it's one card. So when I first started to learn, like, I would do a morning card and a night card, and the morning card would be like what to expect for my day. And then the card I pull at night would be how to reflect on my day. And then I would journal about it, and I would kind of see, like, I'd do a quick journal in the morning if I had time. If not, I would just kind of write down the card that I got and meditate on it with 5 minutes, write some keywords down, and then go about my day. I usually tried to make some time in the morning, though, for that. And then at night, I would draw another card, and I would start comparing the two and, like, how it played a part in your day. And learning that and kind of equating it to real life situations is going to be a really good way to learn. So journal every reading you do, whether it's for yourself or a client or a family member or a friend. Write it down. Write down the cards you got, what order they were in, and what you said about it, and kind of keep track of that. Go back and reflect on it in a couple weeks and see, like, if it played out, and just kind of see, like, how your intuition grows through that. Guys, thank you so much for bearing with me through this video. I just kind of wanted to put myself out there and kind of get this rolling. So I thought no better way than to start this introduction video. And then hopefully here in the next few days, I will have my first video out with introducing the wands. I think that's the first one I'm going to do. And each video will be around about 3 of the cards until we get to the court cards, and then we'll talk about all 4 of the court cards. So guys, again, thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time.